Hey there. Are you on the fence about using Laravel? Well, if you have a few minutes, I'd love to show you the feature set that Laravel has to offer out of the box so that you can decide whether it's for you or not. I have here a very simple Laravel installation, and I've opted to install Laravel Breeze, which is a scaffolding on top of Laravel that simply gives you all the authentication and profile management that you'd need in order to get your app off the ground. Okay, with that said, I like to start with my data structure, and in this particular video, we're going to build a blog with basic comment functionality. So we can use Laravel's console component for this, PHP artisan, and let's say make model, and obviously we're going to want a blog post. We'll ask for a database factory, a migration, a policy, and a resource controller along with that model. Let's do the same thing again, but this time we'll ask for a comment model for our database. Again, we'll have a factory, migration, policy, and resource controller. Let's jump into the migrations that have been created for these models and fill them out. For our post table, well, we're going to need the title of the post. We also want a long text which will store the body of the post. And then we have a relationship that we need to set up, and we want that to be linked to the user model, which Laravel ships with out of the box. Let's constrain this user model, and let's make sure that it restricts on delete so that we avoid any unintended side effects. Our comments table is going to look pretty similar. I can get rid of the title, and I'll need to add another foreign ID, this time to link a comment to a post. We could change to cascade on delete here. Inside the post model, I'm going to set up a belongs to method. This is going to point to the user that created the blog post. So there is that link. And a post also has many comments. So we'll fill that out as well. And we need to add the fully qualified class name of comment just here. For the comment model, well, again, it belongs to the user that wrote it, so we'll add that relationship as we have in the database. And then we also want a second belongs to relationship, which will point to the post that this comment was made on. Now, Laravel has first-class testing and seeding tools. In this case, we've created a post factory and a comment factory that will allow us to scaffold out fake posts and comments so that we can test our application without having to manually create data. Inside the database seeder that Laravel ships with, I'm going to uncomment this line here, which will create a user for us with the email of tests@example.com. Let's go ahead and create a bunch of blog posts using that factory I just created. We can make sure that each blog post has a number of comments using the comment factory, let's say 15 apiece, and we can say that each of these blog posts was written by this user here. Finally, we'll call create. And the only other thing to do is set up a database to actually seed this data into. Now, Laravel supports many different database drivers. I'm going to get started with SQLite. So I'll go ahead and touch database/database.sqlite, and in the .env file, I'll change the database connection to SQLite, comment out these lines here, and then run php artisan migrate --seed. The next thing I want to do is define the routes that we'll use to play with posts inside the blog. So I'm going to go to web.php, and down here I can define a resource for the posts, which points to the post controller that we created earlier using PHP Artisan. We also want a resource for our comments, and I can make that a nested resource under posts by using the .syntax here, and then I'll point this to the comment controller like so. And seeing as you'll have to be authenticated to post comments, I can add the auth middleware to all of the comments routes. Let's again use PHP Artisan to list all of the routes in our application, and sure enough, here are all of the routes for seeing posts and for seeing comments. Everything is set up correctly. Let's jump into the app logic. Inside our post controller index method, I'm going to return a view to posts.index. We're going to need to pass it the posts from the database, so I'll go ahead and grab them by using the eloquent model we set up earlier. I want them in latest order, and I'll paginate them in tens so that we don't load all of the posts in a single query. I'm also going to eager load the user relationship with every post so that we avoid n+1 problems and performance issues in our application. Let's create that posts.index view, and I'll quickly scaffold this file out so you're not sat here watching me write boring old HTML. And after a couple of minutes of work, here is what we're left with. All that's left to do is add pagination, and that is super easy thanks to the tools that Laravel provides. here at the bottom of the page, I can simply output, well, the posts that I've given to the view, followed by the links method. And you can see here at the bottom, we have a nicely styled paginator that already works perfectly when I click between posts like so. How nice is that? Now let's focus on viewing an individual post in our application using the show method on the post controller. So much the same as index, I'm going to return a view here to posts.show, and as data to this view, well, we need to give it the post that we're interested in, which has been automatically injected for us by Laravel. Again, we'll create the post.show view, and give me a second while I write the HTML here. All right, and here is the almost finished result. We have the post title, when and who published it, the actual body, and then a space for comments at the bottom. Note that the body is written in Markdown. We could do with transforming that into HTML, and thankfully, Laravel has that capability baked right in to the framework. Let's add an attribute cast to our post model. I'll call it HTML. It's going to return an attribute, and down here we simply say return attribute get, and we can use a closure to wrap the value of body in a string helper and call the markdown method. And then back inside our show blade PHP, I'll output HTML instead of body, and hey presto, this is now HTML. Now, thankfully, Laravel prevents us from outputting raw HTML accidentally, but if it's intentional, we can use this syntax instead, and if we remove this line here, everything now works, and thanks to Tailwind's typography plugin, this looks great. Let's also add comments to the mix. I'm going to load the post's related comments using that relationship method we created earlier. I'm going to eager load the user model for each comment, and again, I'll paginate in sets of 10. And a tad of HTML later, we have all the comments being output at the bottom of each blog post, and we're actually able to jump between pages of comments on any given blog post as well, all with tools that come out of the box with the Laravel framework. But how do we actually write a comment? We'll tackle that next. This time in the comment controller, I'll jump to the store method, and let's think about what we want to do when a comment comes in. First, we'll validate using request validate. I want to check for a body property, and I want to say that it's required. It has to be a string, and we could say that it can have a maximum number of 255 characters. The next thing we want to do is create a comment, and obviously the comment is nested under a post, so we'll also receive a post in the method signature here. We can say post, comments, create. We could pass in any validated data, and also the currently authenticated user that has come with the request. So request, user, ID. Finally, we'll return to the correct post show route, and I'm going to add a URL fragment on so that we jump straight down to the comment section. I'll quickly add the form to submit the comment. And here it is. Let's see what happens when I try to submit this. Well, we're taken straight to the login route because we protected that store route with the auth middleware. We could hide this when we're not logged in by wrapping it in the auth directive like so. And if we jump back to that blog post, now it disappears entirely. Let's go ahead and log in so that we're able to see this. And now that we're logged in, let's go down to the comment section and see what happens when we submit. We get an exception because by default, Laravel will prevent us from accidentally inserting data into the database from the front end that we didn't expect. We can fix this by going to the comment, adding a fillable property, and saying that the body and user ID can be mass assigned to. And then let's jump back into the browser and resubmit this request. And hopefully, somewhere here, we should have our hello world request. Tell you what, why don't we flip the order that these comments are shown in? Let's jump back to the post controller, and where we have comments, I'm going to tag on latest in order to make sure that the latest comments are shown first. Now, when we refresh and go back to page 1 of comments, there is hello world. Of course, a user should be able to delete their own comments. Let's tackle that. In the comment controller, I'm going to come to the destroy method here, and I'm going to first of all authorize the user to actually delete the comment in the first place. This will be handled from the comment policy under the delete method, and the logic can basically be, well, is the user ID identical to the comment's user ID? In other words, did you create this comment? If that's the case, well, then we can simply delete the comment like so. Super simple. And then let's return to the root of the post.show, passing in the active post. And again, we can add the fragment comments to jump straight to the comment section. Once again, I'll briefly add a form for deleting the comment. And now you can see that each comment has a nice delete button, which, when we click, deletes the comment from our database. Pretty easy, right? However, we can see that the delete button is appearing under all comments. If I try to click it, I'll get a 403 thanks to that authorization we set up. But of course, we don't want to see the delete button unless a comment belongs to us. So I'm going to wrap this form in a simple directive of @can, and we'll check if we're actually able to delete this comment. If we're not able to, then we shouldn't even see the button in the first place. And now you can see that's the case. If I add a new comment, sure enough, I see the delete button. And if I click it, everything works as expected. And with that done, well, we have a working blog. We have an index where we can paginate through as many blog posts as exist in our database. I can click into a post. I'm able to see a markdown to HTML conversion. Thanks to Laravel, I'm able to see, post, and delete comments on my blog post with authorization and authentication in the box. We've done that in a matter of minutes. I can paginate through my comments. I think this is really cool. It's a performant blog, and we can obviously add to it as we see fit down the line. I hope this goes to show how easy and quick it is to get up and running with Laravel, and the power that it gives you out of the box before you even add anything else on. If you enjoyed this, why not check out some of the other videos on Laracasts where we dive much deeper into explanations about how each component in Laravel works and how you can make the most of it. Until next time, I'm Luke. See you later.